Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever thought about how fundamental business ideas, stuff like branding, customer loyalty, even personalized service, pop up in really, really unexpected places? Today, we're diving into a story that, well, it doesn't come from Silicon Valley or some huge corporation. It's from someone who found, honestly, surprising success in a field you probably wouldn't link with, strategic thinking at all.
Right. And that's kind of the mission for you, the listener, this deep dive. We're exploring customer relationship management, CRM. But we're doing it by looking at a really unconventional source,
Mm.
the story of this incredibly successful beggar. The goal is to show how these core business principles work everywhere, even in surprising spots, and to pull out those valuable nuggets about customer interaction, keeping customers' loyalty wherever we find them.
Okay, so let's get into the main story. It's about this person called Beggar Li. His real name was Li Chaohua. He actually used to be a boss, had his own company, and then just lost everything. House is gone, wife left. He ended up begging. But what's really striking about him, even in that awful situation, was this spirit, this drive for performance. He wasn't just begging, he was like trying to excel at it.
Exactly. And that's where his story turns into this fantastic real-world example of business strategy.
Yeah.
Let's break down what he did. First off, his grasp of branding and differentiation, just instinctively. He didn't just sit there like everyone else. He made his own brand, Beggar Li. And he set himself apart, put a few coins, seed money, he called it, in his bowl, and a sign with his name. Simple things, but they made him unique, a standout.
So he's carving out a niche right away. It makes you think, in today's world, everything's so crowded online. How do businesses, especially the smaller ones, get that kind of instant differentiation without spending a fortune?
Often it's about focus, which leads to the advice he got on professionalization and specialization. He was told, look, just focus on baking. Don't mess around collecting scrap metal or doing other things on the side.
Right.
The idea was you make your main thing begging, in his case, bigger and stronger, before you think about diversifying. Concentrate your brand, basically. Don't dilute it.
Focus builds strength. Makes sense.
But here's where it gets really, really interesting. His take on personalized service and the experience economy. Beggar Line started giving change back. If someone gave him 1 RMB, he'd give back 50 cents. And if someone tried to give him just 20 cents, he'd actually refuse it. Said his minimum was 50 cents.
Wow.
Yeah. It created this totally unique, memorable interaction. It showed, I'm different. People weren't just dropping coins. They were part of this weird, unexpected exchange.
That's so counterintuitive, though. You'd think he'd grab every single cent. But by refusing small amounts, giving change, he made it memorable.
So how do businesses today do that? Create that unexpected moment that turns a boring transaction into something people remember, especially online. What's the digital version of giving change back?
Sometimes it's radical transparency, or maybe solving a problem before the customer even complains, or a level of personalization that feels really human, not just like an algorithm sped it out. And that connects directly to word-of-mouth marketing. People who got change back or got turned down for giving too little, they were so surprised they just had to tell people.
We won't believe this beggar I met. Yeah, I can see that. Exactly. He gives change. It created this huge buzz, totally free publicity. It boosted his brand value, his visibility, way more than any ad could have. It's that authentic word of mouth. And he was also tapping into the attention economy. Think about it. A lot of us have our basic material needs met, right? But maybe there's this spiritual emptiness sometimes. People crave novelty, unique experiences. Giving money to Beggar Li wasn't really about pity. It was about the experience, the story you could tell afterwards. People will drive miles to see some weird three-legged toad if it's unique enough. They'll seek out a unique beggar, too. He was providing a kind of novelty.
That's such a key insight. It's not just the thing itself, it's the story around it, the experience. Makes you think about products or services you use, maybe not because you absolutely need them, but because they're interesting or surprising. So what's a common trap companies fall into when trying to create that unique experience? Something Beggar Li managed to avoid.
Well, often they try to just sort of buy it, with shallow perks or discounts. They don't fundamentally rethink the interaction itself. They miss that unexpected piece. And the final masterstroke for Beggar Li, scaling and franchising. He grew incredibly fast. Set up over 100 branches in just 3 months, became known as the King of Beggars. He even supposedly attended a global beggar internet ecosystem conference. Whether that's entirely true or not, it shows the mindset. This wasn't just luck. It was a model he could replicate and scale.
That's incredible. So this guy, starting with literally nothing, is using branding, differentiation, customer experience, word of mouth, attention economy, franchising, all these big business concepts just intuitively. It really shows these aren't just, corporate buzzwords. They're basic human ways of connecting and creating value. Makes you wonder what other non-obvious approaches are just sitting there in our own fields.
Exactly. And that neatly brings us to the more formal idea of customer relationship management, or CRM. A good way to define it, one widely accepted definition, is thinking of it as an operating model. Companies use all their interactions with customers to really understand and influence their behavior, the end goal, to boost customer acquisition, keep customers longer, increase loyalty, satisfaction, and ultimately profitability. It's about looking at the whole customer journey.
Okay, so why should we really care about CRM? Beyond the textbook definition, what's the actual impact on a business? Well, first, there's cost efficiency. Getting a new customer costs, what, 5 to 8 times more than just keeping one you already have? That's a massive difference, a huge saving potential many businesses miss.
It is, absolutely. And then you've got the profit driver angle. You often hear about the 80-20 rule, right?
Yeah, 80% of profit from 20% of customers.
Exactly. So it's not just knowing that number. The real trick is figuring out who that crucial 20% is, and then using CRM to really tailor their experience. How did Beggar Li find his 20%? By offering that unique interaction that grabbed the right kind of attention.
Good point. And it goes beyond just money, too. Think about reputation management. One unhappy customer, especially now with the internet, they can tell 9 people easily. And that negative story can spread globally in like minutes. They often say one complaint you actually hear might represent 20 people who just stay quiet but are still unhappy. And get this, it takes something like 12 positive experiences to make up for just one bad one. That's a steep hill to climb back up.
It really is. And maybe the most powerful number is this. Just a 5% increase in customer retention, keeping 5% more of your customers, can boost profits by up to 85%. This really shines a light on that revolving door effect you see sometimes. Businesses get obsessed with chasing new customers, spending all that acquisition money, while their loyal existing customers feel neglected and just walk out the back door. It's like pouring water into a leaky bucket instead of fixing the holes first.
Makes total sense when you put it like that. So CRM, at its heart, is based on some core beliefs about customers. It's not just seeing them as walking wallets. First, the idea that customers are assets, things you manage, you invest in, you nurture. Second, maybe controversially, not all customers should be treated the same. Some are just more valuable to the business, and your strategy needs to reflect that reality.
Right. And third, every customer is unique. They have different needs, different ways of making decisions. Understanding those individual nuances is key, which leads to the fourth belief. If you truly understand your customers, you can create customized offers, customized experiences that maximize their value to the business, and importantly, the business's value to them. It's a two-way street. The way we think about customer relationships has really evolved over time. It's a fascinating story in itself. If you go back to the 1980s, it was much simpler, mostly contact management and database marketing. It was really just about interacting and collecting basic data. Think direct mail lists, maybe early forms of networking, keeping track.
Just the basics, yeah. Who are they? How do we reach them? Not much deeper than that.
Then the 1990s rolled around and the focus shifted. We started talking about relationship marketing and customer care. This is when call centers really took off and businesses started trying more personalized outreach. The whole idea of a relationship started to mean more an emotional connection, continuous interaction, not just a one-off sale.
Right, moving beyond just the transaction. And then the 2000s brought us what we now think of as CRM proper.
Pretty much. Full-blown customer relationship management. Viewing these relationships as this ongoing activity, it involves acquiring customers, yes, but also maintaining and enhancing those relationships over time. It's a continuous loop.
And technology has been the massive engine driving this, hasn't it? We went from basic data collection like point-of-sale systems, call logs, to incredibly complex stuff now. We're talking Internet of Things, sensors everywhere, collecting data constantly, and processing huge amounts of unstructured big data. Like when mobile apps ask for access to your photos, your contacts, they're looking for those digital traces of your life, your interactions.
And once you have all that data, technology steps in again for data storage and analysis. We're talking complex databases, data warehouses, and then applying techniques like data mining, machine learning, AI, all to predict what customers might need or how they might behave. It's how companies seem to read your mind sometimes.
Which leads to the holy grail, true personalization. Using all that insight to understand individual needs and offer tailored products, services, recommendations. like Netflix suggesting shows. It's not random guessing. It's based on mountains of data about your specific viewing habits. That's CRM working behind the scenes. But what's the biggest mistake companies make when they try to build loyalty using all this tech? Is it just about throwing discounts at people, or is there more to it?
That's a great question. Because fundamentally, real customer loyalty isn't just bought with money. It's not just about discounts or points programs, though those can play a role. True loyalty comes from genuinely understanding and meeting individual preferences, making people feel seen and valued. That deep personalization, driven by insight, not just transactions, that's the core of effective CRM. A lot of companies miss that. They focus on the reward, not the relationship.
Okay, so building these strong relationships, this deep understanding, it sounds valuable, but it also sounds expensive. It must cost something. You can probably break down the costs into three main types, right? First, there's the obvious acquisition cost. That's all your marketing, advertising, sales efforts, everything you spend just to get a new customer through the door.
Exactly. Then, once you have them, there's development cost. This is what you spend to increase and maintain the value of that existing relationship. It could be things like ongoing customer service, adding new features to a product they use, loyalty programs designed to deepen their engagement, investing in the relationship you already have.
And finally, there's maintenance cost. This is the day-to-day effort, really. Sustaining the relationship, fixing problems quickly, maybe even rebuilding trust if something goes wrong. It's the essential upkeep.
It's actually really helpful to think about these costs using an analogy from personal life, like dating or marriage. Think about the investment needed there. It's not just financial, right? It's emotional, too. Businesses, just like people in relationships, have to invest resources, money, sure, but also time, effort, patience, even what you might call emotional value to keep that customer loyalty strong. It's like managing your resources for your partner's birthday. You have limited time and money. Where do you invest it for the biggest impact? Sometimes it's not the most expensive gift, but something thoughtful, showing you understand them. That's the emotional value.
That handwritten card versus the fancy gadget idea.
Precisely. In business, that translates to making customers feel genuinely touched, understood, maybe through a clever ad, a thoughtful marketing message, or just exceptional service that anticipates their needs.
And it requires continuous innovation too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's just like partners need to find new ways to connect and keep things fresh, businesses need to constantly find new value to offer. Why? Because consumers get used to things. They can become, well, spoiled and start expecting more. You see different strategies for this. Look at Apple. They tend to consistently try to increase the value and the price. Compare that to, say, markets where intense price wars are the norm, constantly driving down perceived value.
That need for ongoing investment, for continuous effort, I've actually seen that play out very powerfully in my own life, my own marriage. Early on, my partner and I hit some really major roadblocks, things that seriously tested our commitment. It felt like everything could just fall apart. But looking back, the relationship survived and actually got stronger because, well, at least one of us was always willing to keep investing, keep working at it, even when things were tough and the future wasn't clear. That perseverance, that constant effort to find new ways to connect, to offer value, to show up, that's what keeps any relationship going, whether it's personal or with a customer. It needs that continuous fuel. So when we boil it all down, we've explored today really shows that customer relationship management, it's not just some sterile business strategy. It's fundamentally about human connection. It takes strategic thinking, yes, but also deep understanding, empathy, and that continuous, dedicated investment of effort and resources.
Exactly. And that really leads you, the listener, with a question to ponder. Given the real effort and cost involved in building and maintaining truly valuable relationships, personal or professional, what costs are you truly willing to pay for the connections that matter most to you? How will you identify the ones that are worth that deep investment? And maybe more importantly, what new non-transactional value will you consistently bring to nurture them?